Welcome to this edition of partying and videoing. It's a wonderful time for most of us, and we're having fun. So I want to take off some time from the party to come and do this video for you, because I realized that there are certain things that as we are moved into the new year and we're having fun, there are things that we need to take cognizance of. There are things that we need to look out and ask ourselves, how is this thing affecting our life? How will this thing affect our future? Because some of us have taken certain decisions in the past 12 months, which as at now has really dragged us down. But because most of us are not taking out time to analyze some of our decisions, we've not come to realize the impact of some of those decisions on our life. The impact of what some of those decisions has made to keep us from reaching the destination that we've set for ourselves. So some of the things I want to share with us now, before I go back to the party, is the things that I feel that can help us. And I've titled this message today, "What advice will he give you?" Meaning that looking at your 2015, what advice will you give to yourself today? What are the things, some of the decisions you took last year that you know what you know now you wouldn't have taken? You know, recently I was listening to the owner of Alibaba. The owner of Alibaba is a prominent website called Jack Ma. Now, Jack Ma was asked, he said that he was asked that, knowing what he knows now, what advice would he have given himself? He had met himself in his 20s, or himself in his 30s, or himself in his 40 and his 50. And he gave a series of advice he would have given to himself. And also a few days back, I was listening to Jamie Foxx being interviewed by the renowned Tim Ferriss. And Tim Ferriss asked him, Jamie Foxx, what advice would you have given to a Jamie Foxx in his 20s? Or if you have met yourself in your 30s, Jamie Foxx, what advice would you have given yourself? Or if you have met yourself in your 40s, what advice would you have given to yourself? Now, he told me that reflection on our past, on how we've lived a number of years, is important to guide us in what we'll do in future. So, one of the things I want to do with us today is helping us to look at our last year, so that in as much as we are starting the new year with parties, we're having fun, we need to know that the mistake we made in 2015, that we don't repeat them in 2016. Now, for most of us, a lot of us, we have been taking out our pen and paper and started to write out a resolution for the year. We'll be looking at the things that we want to achieve for the next 12 months, and we are doing it with gusto and a lot of zest. Now, very few people have taken out time to ask themselves, I did the same practice in 2014, 2013, and for a number of years. How come I'm still almost at the level that I am? So that's one of the things that we'll be looking at now, so that 2016 will be a very, very rewarding year for you. So that just as we've started with a lot of parties and funfair, you can also move into it with determination and avoid the mistake that you made last year. So let's look at 2015. Personally, I've taken out time to analyze my 2015, and I asked myself, what advice can I give to myself based on my decision of 2015? You know, as I looked at my decision of 2015, I told myself that the advice I would have given myself at the beginning of 2015 was, don't involve yourself in the negotiation when it comes to financial fees that your client is supposed to pay. Because most times I find myself giving away, making concessions that, you know, I get so emotional when I look at some of my clients, I say, no, this guy might not be able to pay for my service, so whatever they just bring in, I say, okay, let's just start. But along the line, when we start, I find out that their business starts to do so well that the fees they are paying me seem to make no sense compared to the service I'm giving to them. So for me personally, I think the advice I would have given myself was, stop negotiating with your clients. The second advice I would have given myself was to have started to read financial books on time. You know, there was a book I heard about a long time ago, but I finally bought it in 2015. I started to read it. It's a book by Tony Robbins called Money Mastering the Game. And when I started to read this book, I was amazed at how certain decisions I took in 2015, how they negatively impacted my financial position. You too also need to look at your financial decisions. What are some of the financial decisions you took in 2015? Look at them and analyze them, and tell yourself, see, these were wrong decisions that I took. Look at them and make these changes, because 2016 needs to be a year that you move into with purpose and planning. One another decision that another advice that I would have given myself in the beginning of 2015 was start to write down your goals for the day every day. You know, I've been practicing this thing for a very long time, but I stopped for some time, and I start again every day. When I wake up, I write down the things I wanted to do for the day. And I found out that any day I wrote out the things I wanted to do. Even if it was just writing down, I want to read and I want to rest, I found myself being more productive on those days. And for the other days of the month or the year that I didn't write out the things I wanted to do, I found that I was very, very unproductive. It means that if you too can learn to start to write out the things that you needed to do every day, that you can become more productive. So my resolution too for 2016 is every day as I wake up, I'll write out the things I want to do. It mustn't be very big things, but as long as I wrote them down, it kept me focused on those things, and it helped me avoid a lot of distractions. And now some of the advice I would have given myself based on my 2015 decisions is about socialize more. The few times I attended some of the big events in Professor Patu Tommy high network event, I found out that they were relationships I made that kind of pushed me further ahead in life. So these are so personally for me. For you yourself, ask yourself, what are some decisions that you took in 2015 that knowing what you know now you wouldn't have taken? And the other part too that, is not just about 2015. The other question I want to ask you is, what advice would you have given you, knowing if you have met yourself in your 20s or in your 30s? For me personally, if I met myself in my 20s, knowing what I know now, the advice the me of now, of today, will give me the me of my 20s, will be, don't read pharmacy. Because I found out that what I'm very gifted at is solving business problem, not solving human problem. It means that if I consider if I read business management or economics or a business related course, I would have moved faster in my calling in life and would achieve better results. I have found satisfaction faster in life than the pharmacy I read. Yes, the pharmacy I read that I did very well in it until the moment I now switched into business management. But if I had known the me of my 20s, because I asked myself, why did I read pharmacy? It's quite a funny thing why I read pharmacy. And why I read pharmacy was that I looked at JAMB Brochure. I didn't want to do, because I attended a special science school, I felt that I must do a science-based course. And I looked at JAMB Brochure. I didn't want to do medicine and I didn't want to do engineering. And the focus that sounded very nice to me was pharmacy and radiography. I filled my JAMB form without even knowing what a pharmacist did. Now, if knowing what I know now, I think that, and see, the funny part was that even in secondary school, one of my best courses was economics. I just loved economics. So if I know what I know now, I would have admired myself to read economics. You too also need to look at your 20s. Ask yourself, what are the mistakes you make in your 20s that knowing what you know now, you might need to start to make some certain corrections. Yes, for me now, based on that, I've made certain corrections between those years and now, so that I've realigned myself and moved back to what I should have, the advice I've given myself in my 20s. Now for my 30s, what advice would I have given myself in my 30s? I think, or rather in my late 20s, the advice I would have given my late 20s was that work for somebody in an area you want to operate in before you start your own business. I decided to move into a massive area of pharmaceutical industry, which was pharmaceutical importation and distribution. And I did not take out time to work on understudy anybody. Now, certain decisions, certain mistakes I later made in running the business was because I did not have any prior training or any prior work experience. If I had certain work experiences, I wouldn't have taken certain decisions I've taken. Now, for myself in my 30s, some of the decisions I would give myself, knowing what I know now in my 30s, was that start to save. No matter how successful you are, no matter the inflow of money into your business, start to set aside certain amount of money, keep aside certain amount of money. If you look at the Bible, Joseph, in the very productive years, Joseph said to Pharaoh, set aside 20% of the crops yield in every year for the next 7 years. I think that if I started to set aside because in my 30s, my pharmaceutical business was doing very well. If I started to set aside 20% of our profit every year, I don't think some of the challenges I faced when the economic crisis hit Nigeria in the 2008, 2009, that those crash would affect me so much. Because when my business was doing so much, I was focused on just registering products and buying cars for my staff. And I had basically almost no savings. When the financial crash now hit Nigeria, and people now started to, it became difficult for me to now run the operations of the business. So the advice I would have told myself if I met myself in my 30s was that in my early 20s was that cash is king. Now I'm in my late 30s, and what are the advice I would want to learn? Well, I will look at the advice that Jack Ma gave and the advice that Jamie Foxx also gave to himself. I say the advice I might look at the advice they gave to themselves and start to learn from the advice. Meaning that in my 30s, I need to start to focus a lot. And that is why in the earlier video that I shared, I posted today, one of the decisions I said I took is that there are certain opportunities, certain kind of jobs I've been doing that I've decided to deliberately cut off. In fact, one of my major source of income was doing a training for a company towards the end of every year. But at the end of this year, I deliberately decided not to go them to put in my proposal for the year. Because I said to myself, these are certain things, yeah, they're giving me income, but they are also distracting me. So I want to learn from Jack Ma and Jamie Foxx and say in my 30s, I need to focus. You also need to learn, especially for this year. This year might be a year for most Nigerians that we need to focus. Because a lot of us, 2015 was a lot of distraction, most of us did not focus. But things might be a lot challenging for a lot of people in 2015 based on what is happening to the Nigerian economy. So for you, the lesson you might need to learn from 2015 is to focus your life. Now, the other thing is, what advice will you have wanted to listen to? You know, most of us have got massive number of advice. Now, for me, I also got a lot of advice, and because of the nature of my work, I also gave a massive number of advice. Now, I've looked at certain mistakes that I made during the year, and most of them were because of some of the advices I listened to. Now, some of the advice, you know, some advice I just by just listening to people. Now, one of the advice I think I shouldn't have listened to is about looking at some of the speakers I've been listening to, and somebody saying most of these guys are liars. Now, because of that, it made me not to really listen to some of the insights they were sharing, and I missed on certain things that would have changed my life. And also, I think one of the biggest advice I shouldn't have listened to in 2015 was to, you know, when I was having my clash with the pharmacy regulators in Lagos, at a certain time, a lot of advice started to say, guy, back off from these people. Even if what they are doing is not right, but these are the government. You can't fight the government. Well, personally, I came to realize that the moment I decided to back off, the moment I said, okay, let these people just go off, there's something took my eyes almost away from the pharmacy profession, especially the young people, business owners who are coming there up, who are struggling, and people who are facing serious challenges in the industry. So if I had known, one of the advice I wouldn't have taken was to have stepped off the pedal and putting the pressure. Probably if I continue on the pressure, maybe there would have been some massive changes in the industry. But apparently because I backed off, some of the changes did not happen. Now also, I just remember something about some of the advice I would have given myself. Some of the advice I would have given myself was, you know, I normally write a lot every day on my website, and I do a lot of videos. One of the advice I would have given myself in 2015 was to do more videos, because my videos and my write-up, 90% of my clients come from watching my videos and from reading my write-ups. But because when I got so distracted with doing so much jobs, I backed off on my writings. So one of the things I also want you to do is look at one of the things that have been, the major things that have been giving you your income in 2015, and ask yourself, were you distracted from them, and now key into it and start to focus. The next one is, what part would you not have taken in the past 12 months? Because for most of us, there are parts at every particular point, there are choices open to you. And once you take any particular choice, make any decision, you've taken a part of life and you have closed certain doors. Look at the path you took in 2015. Look at where you landed in 2016. If your destination in 2016 are not where you wanted to be at this particular date, if you look at 2015 and you didn't make the amount of progress that you wanted to make, it means that there were certain paths you took in 2015 that were not right for you. You need to analyze those paths. You need to look at them and say, okay, this path at this particular junction in my life, maybe when I needed to do an online course, or maybe when I decided to relax, that choosing the path of realization was the wrong path. Or maybe when I needed to move into this business relationship, but somehow I felt that it was not necessary and I did not go into that business relationship, this path was a wrong path. Look at the path you took in 2015 and start to tell yourself, this path I should stop. And also one thing, all these things I've been sharing with you too is something I want you to do on paper. Don't just be telling yourself that, get a piece of paper and be writing them down. Write out some of the decisions, the bad decisions you took and the good ones, so that you can learn to also continue with the good ones and avoid the bad ones. The next point I want to make, the next question I want to ask you is that what are some of the actions or inactions, action you should have taken in 2015 that you did not take, or inaction that some of your inactions that you know that negatively affected you in 2015? For me, I think one of my inactions that greatly impacted me was not starting to build a massive team. Because I found out, because of the limited size of the team I had and where we were working, we missed out on a lot of jobs. If I had focused on, building certain relationships, that maybe if I was rather in building up my team, there are a lot of jobs I've been doing myself, these guys could have handled it. So you also need to look at some of your action and inactions. Because as you are celebrating now, start to look at the things that you need to put in place. Start to look at the things you need to develop. Look at your inactions and say, this thing needs to stop. The next point now I want to also make is that, what are some of the great actions you took despite your fears? I want to say personally, some of the great actions that I took despite my fear was starting to charge people for adverts on my website. I never really believed that people could pay for adverts on my website. I was amazed at what people were paying. So henceforth, I have now found out that advertising on my website was a source of revenue, and I've keyed into it. And also some of the great decisions I took, despite my fear, was to cut off certain kind of jobs that have been taken. Because of certain kind of jobs that were taken, these little jobs, there are certain opportunities that you grasp without knowing that these little opportunities are blocking the major opportunities that will come into your life. So, for me personally, cutting off some of these little opportunities that were coming my way started to open up doors for the bigger opportunities. Doing that despite my fear of, how am I sure that bigger things will come up? How am I sure I will not lose my revenue? Those are things that I think that despite my fears helped me a lot. Another thing that I also did despite my fear was to start to invest money in marketing. Most of you watching this video are watching it because you see it as a sponsored post. It costs a lot of money for you to boost your adverts on all social medias. But I found out that when I wanted to do it and I looked at the cost implication, fear came into me and said, this money I put into this thing, these hundreds of dollars there, don't you have other places where you can put this money into? But despite my fear, I started to put this money into these social media adverts. And amazingly, the returns these things have been getting for me, the kind of job they have been attracting to me has been massive. Now look at your industry, look at your 2015, ask yourself, what are the fears that I had in 2015? For most of you, for most of my clients, the area I found out they had so much fear was in the area of marketing their business and in the area of advertising it. I want to suggest to you is, go to YouTube and watch a video by a man called W. Clement Stone and listen to what he said about what happened to his business when he started to market it. And for all my clients, I'll advise, go to just search on Facebook on a page called Choice Sanitary. This was one of my clients that I had to force for him to start to do Facebook advert. And he had a product he had not been able to, that the sales had been quite slow. And when we started this massive Facebook advertisement, the sales of this product suddenly jumped by more than 1,000%. It's actually a kind of toilet that you flush with your feet rather than with your hand. And because he had not been marketing it before, people did not know about it. But when we now started to invest money on marketing, suddenly people now started to get to know about this product and people started to order it. I also started to say, see, we need to invest money in building a marketing team. And when we invested money in building a marketing team, he was amazed at the amount of, in fact, his marketing team were generating more sales for him than some of his outlets were doing. So, in summary, this 2016 is going to be a great year for most of us. But it's going to be a great year when we decide to plan our 2016. When we look at our past, analyze our past, and say, okay, based on these mistakes, I will not do this thing in future. You know, the Bible is more like a book of history that when you read about it, it can guide your future. Most of us, when we read about the Old Testament, can see some of the things that they did and get inspiration for us to move ahead. And also the advice that I also want to give ourselves is start to read more books, start to get more insight. Wisdom is the principal thing. In all you are getting, get understanding. You know, the Bible tells us that God gave Solomon 3 gifts: wisdom, understanding, and a generous heart. If you can grasp the principle of wisdom, grasp the principle of understanding, and grasp the principle of generosity, you'll be amazed at the changes that can happen in your life. I know that God is planning something massive for you this year. And I believe that if you have listened to this and you have taken out time to look at your past, that you can plan your future. The next video we'll be doing is how do we plan our 2015 to make it a massive year. So, as I go back to the pattern, I pray that you also do something about it, analyze your history so that your future can be a massive progress for you. Thank you once again for listening. And for those of you who feel that you need some, maybe you're having business challenges, or you want us to come and talk to your team, or you want to join our weekly business seminar, I want you to call us on 080-2362-2171. Or you can inbox us, send us an email on corporatecounselor@gmail.com. Or on this, where you are watching this video, if you look at down there, the address, our email address is there. Or you can also read up our website, read up some of the articles we've been putting on our website on www.richnigerianpharmacists.com. And you'll be amazed at some of the insight and some of the things, nuggets you pick up to move your business forward. Thank you once again, and I wish you a wonderful 2016.